Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for coming back and checking out the channel. I'm working on the 1950s front engine dragster. This is episode 7. And what I'm going to be working on today is getting the motor mounts fabricated and welded up and installed. I have one piece of boxing plate. So you can see here I have a piece of boxing plate left over from my 29 sedan, my two-door sedan that I built years ago. About 8 years ago now I started, or 9 years ago on that at this point. Pete Flavin was here yesterday, came down, wanted to check out the dragster and see what I had been getting accomplished on it. He brought me down that seat. We talked just briefly about how I was going to go about the motor mounts. He whipped up a quick cardboard template and said, I think this is the way you should go. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it the way he thinks I should do it. I got my Hypertherm plasma cutter back. You can see that right here. I think there was something wrong with the motherboard or the computer board or whatever it was. I'm cutting up some cardboard to make some mounts. I have my laser. You can see the line. I'm not necessarily worried about the vertical line, so I'm actually going to shut that off. What I'm concerned about is this horizontal line. I want to make sure that the motor is level, which I have my angle finder here on the back of the motor where the distributor mounts, because that's the only real flat surface on the motor. So I checked it there and I have it at 0.0. I put these ratchet straps on either side of the motor so I can adjust it. That line level is also telling me the same thing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some motor mounts. And I'm going to, like I said, use these cardboard templates, and I want to make sure that I mark them at the right place. I'm going to make these out of 3/16 plate, and that's going to go in the back there. Alright, so we need to make another one of these, and then it should be the same dimension on this side, which it is. So I need to make another one of these, and then I need to make the piece that's going to fill the back side here. I'm going to drill some lightning holes with some hole saws before I weld them all up. I'll do that on my drill press, and then get these things welded up. Now unfortunately I do have a lightning hole here on the frame, so I need to kind of span that and go across the hole, or make sure I flank the hole. That's essentially what I'm going to be building. It's just that standoff. Now I wish I had a big enough piece of 3/16 plate. I would just make that out of one piece. So I'm going to make it in 3 individual pieces. Now I've said it 100 times. I've never been trained at this. I'm not certified. I have taught myself everything I know, which is pretty limited. I enjoy the process of learning this stuff. Head over to the sander, that grinding wheel. I'm going to clean up all the pieces I was able to cut out. I am missing one of these, which is the outside portion of the motor mount. So I'm going to have to find another piece of 3/16 plate somewhere. I'm sure I have some around somewhere. I just don't know where it is at the moment. So let's head over and we're going to get these cleaned up. How's it going, everybody? It is another day and I am working still on my motor mounts. Where we left off was, I think I was on the big sanding disc there, just cleaning things up. I had said I was going to drill some lightning holes. I did that and I didn't turn on the camera because I didn't want to bore you. Just sitting there drilling holes literally for hours. What I've come up with, you guys saw the template, you guys saw the pieces that I cut out. So these are the final pieces minus a hole drilled on the top and having them welded together, or welding them together. This one's kind of sitting together with magnets. So that's essentially what it's going to look like. So you'll have the frame rail right here. The motor mount will be here. This will be on the outside of the frame rail. So that's what you'll see looking from the side of the car. This is what you'll see looking from the front. So it'll be welded here, here, across the back to the frame itself, and then obviously these will be welded up complete. The only thing I have to do left is drill the hole for the top for the motor mount itself. So to make sure that it's centered, I just hold this plumb bob on the center of the crank pulley on the bolt, and just make sure that the tip of the plumb bob is touching the string. Alright, that's it right there. So I'm going to lock that in. I'm just going to tap this piece of angle iron over a little bit. Alright, so that motor can't move now. I'm just going to double check it again. Alright, we're good. I'm happy with that. So now I want to make sure the motor is level. Now we are ready to get these mounts put in place. Like I said, I'm just going to get the hole drilled for here. Once that's drilled, I can bolt it, and then I can add the sides, the front and the back on both of them, bring them over the table and get them welded up. So what I need to do, see it's got like that bottom spear on there. I'm going to end up removing that temporarily because I made them a little bit too wide, and that is leaving a space in between this inside edge and the frame. It's leaving the thickness of this, so it's leaving a 3/16 of an inch space. So instead of putting another piece of metal inside, I just cut it off. I'm just going to get this tacked in place, and then I'll re-weld it. I'll re-weld it on the bottom and then just kind of shape it in. So this is the first piece I'm going to get put in place, and then I'll get this spear going down, and then I'll add my rear piece, and then on the bench I'll add these filler panels. Alright, so you saw I just got those welded up, just tacked in place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull them off the car, or off the chassis, unbolt them from the motor. I'm going to bring them over onto the table. As you can see, I am working on my motor mounts. This is the first one. It's all welded up. It's all cleaned up. Holes are drilled. It's ready to weld onto the chassis. So this is the passenger side, I believe. This one is welded, but I still need to do these filler pieces here on either side. These ended up being too short because I foolishly kind of trimmed off a little too much. So in any event, it's gonna have to be welded up, and then gonna get it all sanded down, cleaned up, and there'll probably be a few spots where I had some porosity that I'll end up having to cut out, like kind of dig out a little bit with my cutoff or grinder, and then re-weld that. So I'm gonna get these filler pieces put in and then get it cleaned up so it looks like that. And I charged my batteries all last night, and the battery's dying already, and it's been what, 30 seconds? That's the way it goes on YouTube. So I'm gonna cut up this little piece of plate and get these filler pieces fitted and get some bevels on these side pieces here and get that welded up. And get it cleaned up and get them welded onto the car. And that'll be the end of the video. Alright everyone, so here we are. We're basically wrapping up the end of the motor mount video. You can see my motor mounts here. They're just bolted here on the hearse mounts, sitting on the chassis. Just hit those real quick with my MIG welder just to get them set in place. And after that, we're going to get to work on the mid plate. So that'll be the next episode. So I believe that'll be episode 8, which will be the transmission cross member / mid plate. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is, instead of just building like a couple of bat wings or wings on the side of the motor, on the side of the bell housing, I have a piece of box tube that's 3/16 wall. It's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I think I'm just going to basically make a transmission, like a cross member, go straight across the chassis, and I'm going to have a couple of plates coming up off of that. It's going to add a little bit of weight to the chassis, but it's certainly going to be extremely strong, and I think for what it's going to add for weight, it's probably not that big of a deal. I'm going to get these tack welded in place, and then I'm going to call it a day. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys following along. See ya.